Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Thank you for joining us. My name is Marina Maraza, and I'm part of the customer support team here at Tax 990. We are an IRS authorized e-file provider that helps nonprofits easily and securely file their Form 990 returns online. Our platform is designed to simplify the filing process and save organizations time and help them stay compliant with IRS requirements. Today, we're excited to continue our grant writing webinar series with the fourth session, Common Components of a Solid Grant Proposal. This is the final webinar designed to help nonprofits build a strong foundation in grant writing and funding opportunities. I am also excited to introduce today's presenter, Mary Louise Resch, Senior Disaster Recovery VOAD Coordinator and a Senior Certified Grant Specialist. Our team had the pleasure of connecting with Mary at the Together South Carolina conference earlier this year, and we are thrilled to have her share her knowledge and experience with us today. Mary, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. You all see my screen. Give me a thumbs up if you can, or a yes in the chat box. Hello, Texas. Hello, Pennsylvania. And thank you, James, for giving me the thumbs up. First of all, I want to apologize to the people who reached out to me last week, and I haven't answered your emails yet. I am so sorry. I got a little bogged down this week, but I will answer your email sometime before this Friday. So I just wanted to let you know that I haven't forgotten. And for the person who asked me about a contact to help develop or refine their website, I put a contact in the chat box. This is the person who did mine when I ran my company. This is the company that did my website, and they did a phenomenal job. And I'm sure he will do a good job for you. And make sure you tell him you want the friends and family rate because I referred you. All right, guys, welcome back. Last time we talked about data resources, and we talked about who has grants, but now it's time to talk about where the rubber meets the road. We're going to actually talk about what typical components go into a solid grant proposal. And the reason we are doing this is we are also going to send you, remember we promised that we would send you some grant resources. We will also send you a Word document at the end of this class that has all of these components included, and it's very easy to put together so you can do it before you have a deadline. So let's get started. Here we go. All right, let's talk about some common components of a grant. The first one is a proposal summary. And basically a proposal summary is a 2 to 3 sentence description of what you put in your proposal or what your proposal's about. Now, I've seen this done 2 ways. One is you write your summary, and then you make sure that all of your components to the proposal match back to your summary. Or you write your proposal and then come back and do the summary after. Either way works for me. What I want to do, though, is, does anyone know why this 2 or 3 sentences is probably some of the most important verbiage you will put in your proposal? If you have an idea, put it in the chat. Wallace, you may need to back out and try to come back in. Sometimes the verbiage does not work. It sets you up to succeed. That's a good guess, Candace. How about something a little more specific? If I'm looking at this, there you go, Fane. To invite readers to read more. Absolutely. If I can capture you in that first 2 or 3 sentences, I'm going to continue to read your proposal. Now, keep in mind, I am that overworked grant reviewer who has 85 proposals that I have to read in 3 days. So if I can see what I'm looking for in that proposal summary, then yes, I'm going to read on because you've captured my attention. But there's also an additional reason why your proposal summary is so critical. If you don't, if you're awarded funding, chances are that 2 to 3 sentences along with your proposal is what will go into your funder's either press release or it'll also go in their annual report. So you are saving the donor time by writing a very clear and concise proposal summary. All right, your organization's mission statement and history. When is the last time your organization has reviewed its mission statement? Mission statements don't change that often. However, in the age of AI and a lot of changes in society, I've worked with organizations who've had to go back and look at their mission statement. But you do want to state your mission statement very clearly. In addition to the mission statement, they want to know your history for a couple reasons. One, they want to know where you came from and how long you've been around. The financial people are going to make sure that you have enough funding to go forward, and this is not your first rodeo. And you also want to talk about how you got from where you were to where you are today. The next item you want to take a look at is recent accomplishments. This is your opportunity to shine a little light on your organizations. Have you received any awards? Have you recently received additional grant funding? Were you in the local newspaper? Remember, back when we were talking about documents, that you always had a folder that had your press clippings. This is where you have the opportunity to kind of brag on those accomplishments. In addition to accomplishments, you also want to be real honest and talk about your challenges. And we all know, working in the nonprofit sector, that the number one challenge is money, particularly operations dollars. What I'm seeing now with more and more donors is they are beginning to understand that you have to have money to leave the lights on to actually do the programs. Central Carolina Community Foundation is a great example again. What they do is they allow nonprofits on program grants to include up to 18% of the grant ask in operations costs, because they know they need to have an executive director overseeing the organization, a finance director, an HR person. You pay utilities, rent. So they do understand. However, we have other challenges as well. I've done a lot of work with the food banking community, and we've had whole food banks that have been wiped out by hurricanes. So it's not just talking about what that disaster is, but how did you overcome the challenges? Is it working with the volunteer community? Are you raising additional funding? Are there any strategies? Absolutely. Mark asked a great question. Are there any strategies, wordings in these parts of the grant? You could say that although a relatively new organization, and there's a couple of things you can do. One is we always work with the local United Ways. United Ways in most communities still have a solid reputation. And actually, many of the United Ways will work with you on a mentoring basis. So if you are a brand new organization, say, although we've only been in existence for 18 months, during that time, we have done this, and this. And that's where you're talking about those accomplishments. That's where you're talking about what you've already, what change you've already affected without the funding. And this is why this funding is so important to expand that capacity. Oh, Candace, good suggestion. And this, I will tell you, when I was an executive director, this one I had to learn the hard way. Instead of just leaving your money in an operating account where it got zero interest, particularly after you do your holiday fundraising campaigns, any money that you're not going to use within the foreseeable future, put it into an interest-bearing account, because that way a little bit of money goes a whole lot further. So Candace, thank you for that suggestion. I'm hoping you all are taking notes, because y'all on this call are just as knowledgeable as I am, and you're pulling up some great stuff. So thank you for the ideas. Of course, you've always got to spend, but you can also put money away. And especially if you get a large grant and it pays over time. When I worked with the Lions Foundation, one of the things we did is we had donors who would make a gift, but the caveat for the gift is the corpus or the original gift would have to stay in an interest-bearing account, but we could spend the interest every year. And if you have enough major donors like that, you can live off of the interest and operate your organization. But that's a whole other class about capital campaigns, and I'm not going there right now. What is your existing need? What is it that, through your data research, what have you learned? Have you learned that there's a lack of multi-generational programming in your community? Have you learned that kids are not supervised at night in a certain neighborhood? What is that need, and how did you determine that? Number one, again, remember we're talking about data last time. So this is why data is so important. And also, how are you fulfilling that need? Based on the data that you have found, how is what you're proposing to that funder going to fulfill that need? And keep in mind, if you say you're going to fulfill a need, you're also going to have to justify it and measure it somewhere down the road. So keep that in the back of your mind. Also, you come up with a creative title. I always like coming up with cute names. I think I told you in a previous class for our Operation HP, our hunger prevention for the military, we called it Operation HP, and our logo was a parachute with a basket full of food. It's something that the funder can remember visually, and it triggers it in their mind. Who is your service population? And this one, people get tripped all the time. Say you're going to do a museum. Oh, you're going to do a music program with kids after school in Richland County, South Carolina. Please do not use all in that you are providing music students for all, because if you don't know how many children in your area and you're only asking for $10,000, funders are going to think you don't know what you're asking for. But especially for new nonprofits, they say, well, we want to serve all of the children in Richland County. If there are 250,000 children in Richland County and you're only asking for $10,000, it's not a realistic ask. With me so far? What are the community benefits? And we're going to talk about outputs and outcomes in a bit, but how are you going to improve your community? Remember, we looked at all of that good information out of Healthy People 2030. Are you going to reduce the miles between your community and a grocery store? Are you going to provide transportation so people can more easily get to doctor's appointments? A funder wants to know what are you really changing in that community? And of course, starts and end dates. This is all going to depend on the funder. Typically, a grant timeline is about 12 months. And I would encourage you of actually having your 12 months lined out. What are you going to do in month 1? Like announce the grant. Month 2, hire someone to do the program, because the funder's going to want to see that you've actually thought this process through, and that includes reporting. It also includes training and technical assistance. So again, within that time frame, and it can be as short as 3 months to 6 months. I've seen funders that, particularly after a disaster, the 1SC fund gave you $50,000 in 6 months to spend it. Now, once we got our programs up and running, that was pretty easy. But until you have to take into consideration that you may have time, or you may need time to ramp up your program before you actually start. In addition to what are you doing along the way, how are you going to wind down the program at the end of the grant period? And we're going to talk about sustainability in a minute, but in addition to sustainability, how are you going to keep this program running? And here's where the rubber really meets the road, and that's description of the services provided by the project. Now, you may say, oh, that's great. I have all kinds of information. Well, with most grant funders now on their portals, you have a limited amount of characters that you can use to put into a grant application. And here's a couple hints on how to make a large document shrink at least a little bit. Instead of writing the word "and," you use the ampersand or the "and" character on your computer. Instead of putting commas between related documents, we put slash marks. It takes, for every one of those, it takes an additional space. And you may not think that that's a lot, but when you are down to having only 2,000 characters and you have a $10,000 project or a 10,000 character project, every space you can save is critical. And how are you different? We've talked about what happens if I'm a grant reviewer and I get 3 proposals from the same community and they haven't spoken to each other. Chances are those applications do not score really well. I've actually sent my recommendation in past grant reviews, have sent it back to all 3 of those community partners, say, we're not going to fund you this time, but we encourage you to speak to each other and see how you can collaborate and come back to us with one proposal and see how each of these programs complement each other. And again, there are 100 food pantries in local communities. There are 100 daycare centers. What makes you so different than every other daycare center in your community? All righty, let's talk a little bit about sustainability. Funders do not want you to rely solely on them for funding. They want to know who else you're working with. And when I was running my grant company, all of my clients had a statement that said, the South Carolina National Guard Foundation is in partnership with Athena Grants Consulting to help us identify additional grants and sponsorships for this program. They also want to, again, this is why they want to know who funds you, is because they want to make sure that A, you are not their sole piggy bank, and B, that, and I've seen this happen time after time, as soon as the money goes away, so does the program. And that's not how funders want to see programs built. They want to see them built for the long term, not the short term. Community partnerships and support. How many of you get the lovely letter of support for your grants? And I'm going to give you a couple minutes. What kinds of things do you put in your letters of support? You don't do letters of support? Well, while you continue to add your answers, I'm going to tell you the ones that I have seen both as a grant writer and as a grant reviewer. How many of you have seen the typical grant letter of support that says, Harvest Hope Food Bank supports Oliver Gospel Mission in letters of support? Oh, thank you, Fane. Letters of support, there are actually funders who will ask for letters of support from your community partners. It could be someone that you're working with. So it could be another funder. It could be a state agency. I know our congressional offices love doing letters of support for federal grants. And what that does is it tells the funder that you're not just making stuff up, that you actually have partners that are working with you. But as I started to say, one of the issues that happen is the typical grant letter of support will say, Harvest Hope Food Bank supports Oliver Gospel Mission in serving the homeless. Please let us know if you have any questions. Would you like to take a guess of what happens when I see those types of letters of support in a grant proposal? The short answer is they typically end up in a trash can because that's about what they are worth. When we do letters of support with community partners, we do them a little different. It almost serves as a mini version of a memorandum of understanding or a memorandum of agreement. And Candace, you were spot on. Yeah, they get rejected really, really fast. But what we do is we will do a joint letter of partnership. We, the following organizations, agree to work on this project and will provide the following services. So if I'm Harvest Hope, I'm going to say, we're going to provide food for the kitchen. We are going to provide bottled water for work projects. We are going to provide afternoon snacks for their kids program at their women's shelter. If I'm Oliver Gospel Mission, I'm going to say, we're going to provide programs. We're going to provide an in-kind service. Good answer, Cassandra. That's we're going to provide in-kind grant review and grant monitoring services. We're going to give you free accounting services. And then both organizations signed the letters of agreement. Yes, I know this is a lot more work. Yes, I know they're difficult to do, but once you do them for your typical programs, you only have to pull them up. You don't have to always have them dated. And this is why these work better, because a couple things typically happen between the time you write your grant proposal and the time you actually get funded, anywhere from 90 to 180 days. What happens during that time? Personnel changes. The guy that you were working with over at Oliver Gospel Mission has moved on to bigger and better things and neglected to tell anyone at Oliver Gospel that he had committed the organization for that program. Also, there's a thing that everyone likes to forget and no one likes to talk about. It's called selective memory. Because if you're in a hurry and you're trying to get these letters of support, you're going to say, oh yeah, we'll do that, no problem. And then when you get the money and you come back and say, hey, when can we start doing this program? They're going to go, I'll remember that. Excuse me? So having things in writing, it's not only good for the grant reviewer because it tells me that you have taken the time to figure out exactly what you're going to do together, but it gives specific examples that if I want to come back and measure, I'll say, okay, so how many of those snacks did you do at the after-school program? Again, it's going back to being measured outcomes and objectives. The other thing, and this literally happened with the 1SC Fund for Disaster. On the proposal, it says, please list your community partners. So guess what everybody did? They listed the names of the community partners. What did that tell the 1SC Fund when they were reviewing the proposals? It told them nothing about what these partners were doing in support of your proposal, in partnership for your proposal. So again, this is why letters of support are so important, and to be able to explain to a funder exactly what these partners are doing to help support the project you're working on. Outcomes. This is the one that almost everyone struggles with. I struggle with it, and I've been doing this almost 40 years. How do you recognize and how do you account for what you're really changing in your community? And that all goes back to the data. But remember those data points we talked about last time? And you're going to get so tired of hearing me talk about data points, but this is where data is critical. As a food banker, I could go to the Map the Meal Gap year after year to see what changes have happened by county in my state. Now, I'm not saying I've changed everything, but our programs did influence. But again, if you don't have a way to demonstrate what's changed, another good example is if you didn't have any after-school programs within a certain radius, and you develop programs that are there, that's an outcome. You are providing safe, secure daycare for kids in your community. Can you give me a thumbs up if it's making sense? Now, how do you get to building towards your outcomes? The quickest way to do that is through your objectives. And your objectives are you can have short-term objectives, you can have long-term objectives. If it's easier to think of it this way, outcomes are your long-term objectives. What are you really changing in society? And then you have short-term objectives. And they should be SMARTIE. And let me put this caveat. With the changes to recent federal and state governments, I would check, and I know on the federal side, but I would check on the state side if inclusive and equitable is part of the evaluation criteria. In the previous administration, it was highly encouraged. This administration in Washington, it's very specific in grant RFPs and in contracts that you will not include DEI, anything DEI. Now, that doesn't mean that any funder does not include DEI. Most community foundations, family foundations, and again, this is where researching those grant resources, like going to their website, having a meeting with the funder, and you can find out those kinds of pieces of information before you start writing. But your objectives do have to be specific, not just say we're going to serve all the kids in Richland County, because we know that that's not happening. A better way to measure it is this program will serve an average of 25 elementary and middle school students per week for 5 days a week at a specific location during the grant period. Is it specific? Yes. Is it measurable? Well, how do you measure it? You look at your daily attendance. You look at the number of meals you've distributed that day. You look at the number of volunteer activities and homework assignments that got done. Is it attainable? Now, we all want to think that we can, do the whole loaves and fishes thing, but I haven't ever found that to really work, and there's only one individual who has. So you've got to be realistic. If you can only do 10 kids a week for 36 weeks of the school year, say that. They would much rather that you be honest and realistic than promising the world and only being able to deliver some cow dung. So you got to be realistic. It's got to be timely too. We are going to provide after school programs from 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday at whatever the location is. Is it, and again, depending on the funder, is it inclusive? How are you going to ensure that all members of the community, we do a lot of work here with a community that does programming for individuals with disabilities. Everything we do, we have to take that into consideration. How are we making sure that our programs can serve that population? Is it equitable? How do you decide who gets accepted to your program? Do you have a selection committee? Is it the first 10 people that show up with the check to enroll their kids? How do you just make those decisions? How are you going to recruit people for your program? All right, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. I'd like you to write one specific objective for your program. And you can put it in the chat. Why is it when I'm waiting for you all, I always think I should be playing the Jeopardy song? Next time I teach this, I will remember to bring the recording. Remember, you got to be specific. It's got to be measurable. It's got to be attainable in those 12 months or 6 months or 3 months, whatever that grant period is. It's got to be realistic. And it's got to be timely. Can you get it done? Is it inclusive? Produce a wayside sign at our cemetery which explains, all right, that is a good, and in what time period, Candace, will you have this wayside sign produced? Is it going to be within the grant period? Is it going to be within 6 months? Within 3 months, you're going to take bids on this, and in 6 months, you're going to do the sign? Oh, I got some good ones in here. To increase mental wellness, I'm sorry, Courtney, for the local transgender community. How are you going to increase mental awareness? Are you going to conduct weekly group sessions where transgender kids can come and process their experiences? Once a week, there's a great program here that does something similar to that. Are you going to have weekly individual sessions with transgender kids so they can talk about their experiences? Are you going to have healthy training programs? Martin, provide attendees with instant film to use in instructional work. Okay, so what do you, Martin, what do you want them to get out of that? By providing them with instant film, what is it you want them to take away when they leave? Because that's going to be your ultimate objective. This is an activity under that objective, but what do you want them? Do you want them to realize how wonderful photography is? Do you want them to foster an interest in the arts by providing this type of material? Candace wants. So Candace is ahead of the game. She's already got the tack. So what you do is you put that in your proposal. Say, right now, we have the design work ready, and within 90 days of the grant award, the sign will be prepared and in place. Mark, our objective is to increase the number of urgent care visits in our town by 10. Excellent. Is it specific? Yes. So you already know how many urgent care visits your clinic has, so that you have a baseline. You'll know if you have 10 more, and you'll be able to measure each of those visits by months. And you'll actually start tracking trends as well, Mark, because you'll start seeing that, when cold and flu season, you may get more than 10 per month. But when it's not cold and flu season, those numbers may slack off a bit, but that also helps you plan future programming. And James, constructive rest. Okay, so bring the concept of constructive self-regulation system. Oh, I like it. How many people are you going to serve, James? How many people are you going to do this instruction on constructive rest? Is it going to be 10 people? Is it going to be 30 people? Okay, Samantha, to clean and beautify the garden, school bus stops for children. Samantha, you might want to talk to your local Walmart store. They actually have some grants for kids' gardens, but just an idea. Okay, how many gardens are you going to do? How many kids are you going to have involved? Are these again? You've got a time. You're doing 2 weeks, but how many during the life of the program? Oops, sorry, I got ahead of myself. How many gardens? Number one. Number two. When will they be done? Are you doing like one a month, one every 2 weeks? So again, the more you can drill this down, because we're going to talk about evaluation. This, anytime you write down these objectives, any objective you write down, you better have an evaluation criteria for them, because that is how you are going to demonstrate back to the funder that you need this funding. Great job. All righty. And then how will the donor be recognized for the gift? I think we talked about this a little bit last time. Please make sure that the funder wants to be thanked publicly for the gift. I almost lost grant money because I put something out in a press release with the funder and almost lost the funding. So check with your funder. And actually, folks like Walmart, if you apply for their grants, there's actually they actually give you some templates of what they would like your press releases and social media posts to be. So that helps a lot. Veterans, I like it. Fane, good job. Veterans and first responders struggle. I work with the Big Red Barn here. They are a wonderful program. They do something similar to what you're proposing. And you have an intake and outtake form. Are you going to do pre and post program surveys? It's another way of assessing it. Good job. All right, now we get to the part that everybody either hates or they love, which is the budget. Now, I'm telling you, you will not have all of these line items, but we try to list as many as possible because we want you to start thinking about anybody who can give to your program. We do grants, we do sponsorships, we do in-kind, you name it, we will take it. But again, funding sources include local government, state government, and that could be grants or cooperative agreements, federal foundations and grants, individual contributions. Do you have individual donors who support your program? And I will tell you, if we're looking at a community foundation or private funder, they really want to know that you are engaging other individuals in raising funds for your organization. Corporate contributions. I'm working on this list of corporate donors, like I'm working with State Farm and CVS Health Foundation, and I'm finding out that they do scholarships and they do in-kind contributions. My clinic person, you might want to talk to CVS Health because they do both in-kind and grant funding for healthcare. And the same with Fane, you might also want to look at CVS. Events revenue. Do you have a signature event that is your big fundraiser for the year? Do you sell tickets? And if you do, how much do you raise by selling tickets or sponsorships? In-kind donations. Do you get that free accounting from the accountant who's on your board? Do you get when I was doing work in juvenile justice, we had a partnership with Good 360, and we got all the goodies from the local Disney store that would have been sent back to their main warehouse. We got a lot of those supplies, and we actually redistributed them within our service population. So are we getting free in-kind materials? And believe it or not, that's worth dollars. Remember, we were talking about the volunteer time? That's an in-kind contribution. And funders, when you read, if there is a match, read very carefully to see if it has to be a cash match or a cash or in-kind match. So keep that in mind. Client fees. Do you charge participants who take part in your program a client fee? Do you bill Medicaid? Do you bill Medicare? Do you bill mental health services or private insurance funding? All of that needs to go in. Publications and products. Do you produce the local or the state press association does an annual press guide that they sell to the community? Ticket sales. We've talked about that. And anything else you can think of. Not everything is going to be, as I said, in your budget. But I do want you to start thinking about the kinds of things that can be in your budget. With me so far? Well, great. Oh, everyone's other favorite, which is expenses. And at the end on your budget worksheet, your income and expenses should balance. Because if I am a funder and you are showing me a negative balance, that tells me you haven't done your homework and you're not working to find additional supportive funding. And that tells me as a funder that I could be at risk of becoming your sole source or the program fails. So again, making sure your expenses balance with your income. Under expenses, salaries, benefits, taxes, travel mileage. Are you sending people to training? Do you have to buy them a laptop? Are you having special speakers come in and that you're paying honorary or stipends? I think I mentioned this before, but we used Coach Dawn Staley, who is the coach of the USC women's basketball team, and we booked her for one of our events. And when they gave me a price for her speaker's fee, and I looked at my budget, it was about $500 less than what I had in the budget. So what we did is we worked it out that we paid her the cash that we had budgeted, but she did an in-kind donation of the additional $500. And she looked like she was the lead gift for our campaign. So it made us look good because, look, we got Don Staley giving us this $500 gift to start. Don't you want to give too? And she gets a tax write-off for that last $500. Supplies. I will tell you things like paper, pens, ink, copy paper. I was managing an Ed Center contract, and we budgeted for one case of copy paper a month for 36 months, not realizing we had 2 learning centers, 2 libraries, and a testing center that all needed a case of paper a month. And by the way, don't come back to your funder and say, well, I ran out of money. Can you give me some more? After they stop laughing, they will say, no, this is something you should have anticipated. So this is where it's important to talk to your program staff, the people that are actually going to do the work, because as grant writers, we'll promise you anything. But you got to make sure that you have the money and that you are budgeting properly. Either that or you're going to have to cut back on your program. Again, that goes back to that realistic part of your objective. You're going to have phone, rent and occupancy. Is somebody donating you a building? If you had to pay that rent somewhere, how much would that be? That is an in-kind donation. Catering, I will tell you, in a federal or state grant, don't put money in for catering. Typically, the answer is no. Copying and printing, website, postage. We don't do a lot of mailing anymore, but some, especially if you're dealing with the senior population who still use the U.S. Postal Service, postage is very important. Subscriptions. Does your organization subscribe to professional journals? Do you subscribe to magazines for your waiting room? Insurance. Do you have health insurance? Do you have liability insurance? Do you have D&O insurance, director and officer insurance? I will not serve on a board of directors unless they have D&O insurance. Because if someone decides to sue that nonprofit, after they get all the money they can from the nonprofit, they're going to go to the next deep pockets, and I don't want to be that deep pocket they're going to. And then bank charges. And then you see budget narrative. You're going to explain why you need that $150 a month in copy paper times 12 months. Okay. So how can I share if I'm writing the best proposal? Best advice I can tell you, and guys, we might go over a little bit today if that's all right with you. For D&O insurance, I would talk to particular agencies that do a lot of work with nonprofit organizations, because they can typically negotiate your rates down. So how can I be sure if I'm writing a proposal? Take a break. This is why you don't wait till the last minute to write this proposal, because you're going to have some time to take a break and come back. Because I've written grants, I thought they were the greatest things since sliced white bread. Came back and read it later and going, I can't believe I wrote that. Because you get so tied into your proposal that that's all you see. The second one is just as important. Ask your program staff to read it. Because, again, we're grant writers. We're going to promise people everything. And then you're going to have staff that say, oh, I don't think so. We don't have the people. We don't have the time. We don't have the money. So don't you want to know that before you submit that proposal and somebody offers you the money? Please don't be like me and submit something and then have to turn money back. And another thing you can do is ask another grant writer. Fresh set of eyes, no problem. They'll come in. They're not as tied to this proposal as you are, and they'll come back and say, well, this is great, but this is kind of vague. Can you make this more concrete? And then we've talked about this in previous sessions. Reach out to the funder. Like I said, there are some funders who will tell you do not hit the send button until you call me and let me read your proposal. And here's the thing too. If you do submit a proposal and a funder calls you back, or you get an email saying, could you please, we're reopening the portal. We would like to know if you can do this, this, and this. That means they are interested in funding you, but you need to take a serious look to find out if this is something that you can truly do. And if you can't, I want you to be honest with the funder. It's real easy to say, oh, God, I'll worry about this later. I'll get the money. No, because you will have to deal with it throughout the rest of the grant period. What do you do when receive grant funding? You celebrate. Everybody gets up at their desk and does the happy dance. And if we were doing this in person, we would be doing the happy dance. And this is about as long as you get to celebrate. Because you're going to be doing things like check with the donor to make sure that they can release the award. You're going to be preparing press releases and social media posts. And depending on the size of the grant or your organization's policy, you may schedule a media event or a check presentation to recognize the donation. And here's the most important part. Please start working on replacement funding. Your funding period will go by so quick. And like I said, typical response on any grant is 90 to 180 days. I've worked on grants where it took me 1.5 years to get a final answer. And this was a federal grant. So please don't assume that this is going to happen next week, because it's not. Okay, this is your assignment before I send you off on your merry way. I want you to look back at the grant funders that we mentioned. It says today, if we were doing this in an actual face-to-face match, but go back and think about some of the grant funders we talked about. Think about one that works for your organization. Go ahead and do the research, and then set up a time to meet with that funder to see if you're a good match. And if I had a dime for every time I was told no, I would be retired somewhere in the Caribbean. So please don't get discouraged. I still get no's. I still get not right nows. But just keep refining your skills and your proposal. You will get funded. Practice does make perfect. And I hope you've made some good contacts here. I want to thank you for sharing the last 4 weeks. I hope you're taking away some good information. Here's your opportunity. What are your last questions before I turn you back over? The chat is open. And thank you, Mark, for offering the help to Candace. This is where classes like this, I think it's the best research. And the best resource that comes out of these classes is the people that you've been working with. And yes, Thane, you can reach out to me for some feedback. I already owe Teresa and Cassandra some responses from their emails, but the Word document and the grant lists will be sent out by Tax 990. They have all of the copies. What is the most common area that you see in grant submissions? Not being specific. That's why I keep, especially in outcomes and objectives, and then taking that one step further is making sure that you are measuring what you said you were going to measure. This is not, can you see now why I encourage you to do this, what we call in blue sky? Because if you wait until you're on a grant deadline, A, you don't have time to think about this, and B, the proposal you put together is not going to demonstrate who you are. And keep in mind that proposal represents not only you, but it represents your organization. So I want you to be prepared in advance. I want y'all to continue to do great things. I see all kinds of great programs. The Word doc will be sent as well. And I just want to thank you all for hanging in. Y'all have done some great work. Y'all have my email address now. If I need to put it in the chat, I can put it in the chat again. I say that and I can't type in the chat right now. And if you ever get to South Carolina, come visit us. And James, I think they post the videos on their YouTube channel. And with that, I'm going to stop presenting and turn it back over to Marina.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us today. And a special thank you to Mary Louise Resch for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. We truly appreciate you taking the time to help our nonprofit community better understand the grant funding process. As a follow-up to this webinar, as Mary mentioned, we will be sending out a curated grant list along with the ready-to-use template to help you get started. We hope that you found today's session valuable and that you leave with greater confidence as you begin or continue your grant writing journey. Thank you all for joining us through this grant writing series. If you missed any sessions or would like a refresher, all of our previous webinars are available on tax990.com/webinar. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Have a wonderful day.